The galaxy believed humans were finished. For many cycles, humans had lost wars, systems, and allies. Their borders shrank. Their fleets disappeared from star maps. One by one, their colonies went dark. Now, only one small human colony remained, orbiting a dying red star called Ashen Light. It was a quiet place, far from trade routes, far from help. Most alien species believed it would fall soon. Some believed it was already dead. Above the colony, the stars were calm. Too calm. On the surface, humans prepared for the end. Large evacuation ships waited in orbit, old and scarred. Their metal hulls carried marks from past battles. Inside the colony, families packed small bags. They did not take much. There was no time and no place to go that was truly safe. In one small room, a human soldier sat alone. He looked at a camera floating in front of him. His armor was scratched. His hands shook slightly. "This is Sergeant Elias," he said quietly. "If anyone finds this, tell my mother I did my best." All across the colony, similar messages were being recorded. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, ordinary people. Final words stored in small data cores. The humans called them goodbye files. They did not cry loudly. Humans had learned long ago that crying did not stop war. In a crowded shelter, a young girl held her father's hand. "Dad," she asked, her voice small, "are we going to die?" Her father did not answer at first. He looked around the shelter. At the tired faces. At the weak lights. At the thin walls between them and space. "No," he finally said. "Not today." But even he was not sure. High above the colony, deep in space, alien sensors came alive. A massive alien fleet arrived through folded space. Thousands of ships. Huge. Clean. Perfect. Their weapons glowed with power. Their shields shimmered like stars trapped in glass. This was the Velker Alliance, a union of several powerful alien races. They had crushed entire civilizations before. To them, the human colony was nothing more than a task. Alien commanders watched the human system on large hollow screens. "That is all that remains of humanity?" one commander asked, amused. "So it seems," another replied. "One weak colony. A few broken ships." They zoomed in on the human fleet. Old human warships floated in loose formation. Their engines burned unevenly. Their armor plates were mismatched. Some ships were so old that alien records marked them as scrapped centuries ago. Laughter echoed across the alien command decks. "Pathetic," one alien officer said. "They send museums to fight us." Another added, "Humans were always emotional. Now they choose to die dramatically." The Velker fleet moved closer, confident and calm. Inside the human command ship, there was no laughter. The bridge was quiet. Screens showed the enemy fleet growing larger every second. Red warning lights blinked softly, but no one panicked. Human officers stood at their stations, faces serious, focused. At the center of the bridge stood Admiral Jonah Hale. He was old. His hair was gray. His uniform was simple, without medals. He watched the alien fleet with steady eyes. He had seen many wars. He had lost many friends. He had buried hope more times than he could count. A young officer stepped closer. "Admiral," she said, "the alien fleet outnumbers us 10-1. Their weapons are fully charged." Admiral Hale nodded slowly. "And the evacuation?" he asked. "Complete," the officer replied. "Civilians are clear." The admiral took a deep breath. For a moment he closed his eyes. Somewhere on the colony, a last transport ship lifted off. A mother looked back through a small window, watching the planet fade away. She whispered a goodbye to the ground that raised her. On the bridge, Admiral Hale opened his eyes. "All ships," he said calmly, his voice steady across every human channel, "this is Admiral Hale." Human crews listened in silence. "We have said many goodbyes," he continued. "To our homes. To our people. To the galaxy that forgot us." Alien sensors detected human communications. They assumed it was surrender. The admiral's voice did not shake. "But hear me clearly," he said. "This is not our last goodbye." Alien commanders leaned closer to their screens, curious. "This," Admiral Hale finished, "is our first strike." Across the human fleet, old ships powered up. Energy moved through systems that had been silent for centuries. Hidden cores awakened. Symbols long erased from databases lit up again. Hull plates shifted. Ancient mechanisms unlocked. Deep inside the oldest ships, weapons no alien race remembered came online. Alien sensors suddenly filled with errors. "What is happening?" one alien commander shouted. Human ships changed formation. Not defensive. Not offensive. Something else. Space around them began to hum. The ancient human fleet awakened fully. Then, silence. No shots fired. No explosions. Just quiet, broken only by rising fear on alien command decks. And in that silence, the galaxy stood on the edge of a secret it was never meant to see. The silence did not last long. Across the Velker Alliance fleet, alarms began to sound. Not warning alarms. Confusion alarms. Screens filled with unreadable data. Distances changed without movement. Energy readings appeared where nothing existed before. Alien commanders stared at their displays. "This is impossible," one of them said. "Those human ships are not firing." "Then why is space reacting?" another demanded. At the center of the Velker command ship, Supreme Commander Carvel narrowed his eyes. He was old for his species, experienced in war. He had seen many tricks. But this felt different. This felt wrong. "Scan deeper," he ordered. "Ignore standard physics limits." The technicians hesitated. "Commander," one said carefully, "our scanners cannot read the human ships correctly. It is like they are not fully here." Carvel's expression darkened. "Humans," he muttered. "Always hiding something." Far away beyond the battlefield, the Galactic Council watched everything unfold. The council chamber was vast, filled with representatives from dozens of species. Floating screens showed the human system from many angles. Most council members had already decided the outcome. They expected a quick end. A tall insect-like delegate clicked its mandibles. "So this is the end of humanity," it said. "One colony. One weak stand." Another delegate, covered in silver scales, nodded. "They should have surrendered earlier. This is pointless." Only one council member remained silent. An ancient being known as Archivist Thane, keeper of old records. Its many eyes focused on the human fleet. "These ships," Thane said slowly, "do not match known human designs." The others dismissed the comment. "Old ships break records all the time," someone replied. "Humans reuse everything." But Thane did not look away. Back in the human system, Admiral Hale stood calmly as reports arrived. "Phase 1 stable," an officer said. "Spatial anchors holding," another added. "No enemy fire detected yet." Hale nodded. "Good," he replied. "They are still confused." A younger officer swallowed. "Sir, if the galaxy finds out what we are doing—" "They will," Hale interrupted gently. "That is the point." On the Velker flagship, Commander Carvel finally gave the order. "Fire a warning volley," he said. "Light weapons only." Dozens of alien ships obeyed. Bright energy beams crossed space, fast and deadly. They should have hit the human fleet in seconds. They did not. The beams slowed, then bent, then vanished. They did not explode. They did not strike shields. They simply ceased to exist. Silence returned. Fear followed. "What did they do?" an alien officer whispered. Carvel felt something cold settle in his chest. He turned to his science chief. "Explain," he demanded. The chief's voice trembled. "Commander, the humans are not blocking our weapons. They are removing the space our weapons travel through." That sentence echoed across the bridge. "Removing space?" Carvel repeated. "Yes," the chief said. "Localized spatial denial." It was theoretical. Forbidden. No species ever succeeded. Carvel looked back at the human fleet. At the old, ugly ships. "Humans succeeded," he said quietly. On the Galactic Council screens, data began to change. Analysts leaned forward. Conversation stopped. "Why did the Velker weapons fail?" one delegate asked. "They should not have," another replied. Archivist Thane slowly rose. "Council," Thane said, voice heavy with memory, "I must correct an error." The chamber grew quiet. "Humans were never weak," Thane continued. "They were restricted. Long ago they signed accords limiting their research. Not because they could not continue, but because they were afraid of what they might become." Shock rippled through the chamber. "Afraid of themselves?" someone scoffed. "Yes," Thane replied. "And now, they are afraid no longer." Back on the battlefield, Velker ships began to reposition, suddenly cautious. Their formation tightened. Shields strengthened. But it was too late for confidence. Admiral Hale watched calmly. "All ships," he said, "prepare phase 2. Do not advance." A captain frowned. "We are not attacking?" Hale shook his head. "No," he said. "We are letting them watch." Human ships adjusted slightly. Ancient symbols glowed brighter. The space between fleets grew darker, heavier. It felt thick like deep water. Alien sensors screamed. Energy spike. No, space collapse forming. Pull back. Commander Carvel slammed a claw on his command chair. Retreat 10,000 units, he roared. The Velker fleet pulled back in panic. Perfect formations broke. Order turned into fear. On the Galactic Council screens something changed. For the first time in centuries the Velker Alliance was retreating. A quiet voice spoke in the chamber. If humans can do this with old ships, one delegate said slowly, what else have they hidden? Archivist Thane answered softly. This is why the galaxy feared humans once. In the human command ship, Admiral Hale allowed himself one small breath of relief. Phase 2 complete, an officer reported. Hale looked at the distant alien fleet. They are watching now, he said. And across the galaxy, fear replaced laughter. The humans had not fired a single shot. Yet the message was clear. The first strike had already begun. Fear spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, military channels filled with warnings. Merchant fleets changed routes. Border worlds activated shields that had not been used in generations. Everyone had seen the same thing. The Velker Alliance, one of the strongest powers in known space, had retreated from a single human colony. And the humans had not fired a single visible weapon. On the Galactic Council, emergency session was declared. Holoscreens filled the chamber, showing replay after replay of the battlefield. Analysts slowed the footage, enhanced energy readings, and compared ancient data archives. Still, many could not accept the truth. This must be a trick, one delegate insisted. A rare anomaly. Archivist Thane stood again slowly. No, Thane said. This is not new. This is old. The chamber grew quiet. Very old. Thane gestured, and ancient records appeared in the air. Faded symbols. Broken human language fragments. Warnings marked sealed. Long before most of you left your home worlds, Thane continued, humans explored sciences others refused to touch. Not because they lacked wisdom, but because they had too much curiosity. On the human command ship, Admiral Hale listened to reports with calm focus. Velker fleet holding distance, an officer said. No advance. No attack. They are thinking, Hale replied. That makes them dangerous. A young science officer hesitated. Sir, she said, permission to ask something? Go ahead. Why did we bury this technology? She asked. Why hide it for so long? Hale looked at the stars. Because the last time we used it, he said softly, we almost destroyed ourselves. Her eyes widened. Deep within one of the oldest human ships, sealed doors opened for the first time in centuries. Dust floated in low gravity. Ancient machines hummed as power flowed through them. A holographic log activated. A much younger human appeared on the screen. His uniform was different. His eyes were tired. This is Dr. Aaron Kels, the recording said. If you are seeing this, then humanity has reached the edge again. The log played across multiple ships, shared among senior officers. We called it void architecture, Dr. Kels continued. The ability to design space itself. Remove it, fold it, kill it. Images followed. Human test ships vanished without explosion. Stars dimmed when experiments went wrong. We realized something terrible, Kels said. If used without limits, this technology would not just win wars. It would end meaning. There would be nothing left to fight over. The recording paused. So we buried it, Kels finished. Not because we could not control it, but because one day we might choose not to. On the Velker flagship, Commander Carvel watched new data with growing dread. Commander, a technician said, we are detecting artificial void zones forming near human ships. They are stable. Controlled. Carvel clenched his claws. Can we copy it? The technician lowered his head. No. Even understanding it breaks our models. Carvel looked out at the distant human fleet. They look weak, he said. They look old. Yes, the technician replied. That may be the deception. Suddenly, one Velker cruiser drifted too close to the darkened region between fleets. Pull it back, an officer shouted. Too late. The cruiser did not explode. It faded. One moment it existed. The next it did not. No energy spike. No wreckage. No signal. A hole remained in the sensors where it had been. Silence filled the bridge. They erased it, someone whispered. No, another corrected. They removed the space it was in. Panic spread. Fall back. Shields to maximum. Why are shields not helping? Carvel raised a claw. Enough, he said sharply. Humans want us afraid. Do not give them victory so easily. But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. This was not fear. This was realization. On the Galactic Council, the footage of the disappearing cruiser played again and again. A scaled delegate trembled. If humans can do this, it said, they can erase entire fleets. Archivist Thane shook their head. No, Thane replied. They can erase wars. The chamber fell silent. Back in the human fleet, officers watched the alien retreat lines stabilize farther away. Sir, an officer reported, we did not authorize that void collapse. It was automatic. Admiral Hale stiffened. Explain. The system reacted to proximity, the officer said. Like a defense instinct. Hale's expression hardened. That means the weapons are thinking, he said quietly. The officer swallowed. Sir, is that safe? Hale did not answer immediately. He remembered old stories. Warnings passed down in whispers. Machines that protected too well. Systems that decided humans themselves were risks. Nothing about this is safe, he said at last. That is why we buried it. Across the galaxy, a message began to spread. Humans did not just build weapons. They built rules for reality. And now those rules were waking up. The galaxy held its breath. News of the disappearing Velker cruiser spread across every known channel. Military leaders argued. Scientists panicked. Old treaties were pulled from archives and read again. One sentence appeared again and again in ancient records. Do not force humanity into extinction scenarios. Near the dying star Ashen Light, the human fleet remained still. Old ships. Silent engines. No pursuit. This confused the Velker alliance more than any attack. Commander Carvel stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the dark region where his cruiser had vanished. He had ordered the fleet to retreat, but he had not ordered surrender. Yet something inside him warned that the next move would decide more than a single battle. Humans are waiting, he said. Why? A science officer answered carefully. They are letting the battlefield form around us. Carvel's mandibles tightened. Explain. Their technology does not chase targets, the officer said. It changes conditions. If we attack, we step into the weapon. Carvel realized then. The humans were not hunters. They were terrain. On the human command ship, Admiral Hale received new data streams. His officers stood tense. Velker fleet charging weapons again, one reported. Multiple energy signatures, another added. Hale nodded slowly. So, he said, they choose fear. A captain stepped forward. Admiral, permission to engage fully. Hale did not answer immediately. He looked at the human fleet. At ships older than most alien civilizations. At crews who knew they might not return. Full engagement, Hale said at last. Phase 3. Across the fleet, ancient systems unlocked deeper layers. Human ships began to move. Not fast. Not aggressive. They drifted. But as they moved, space followed. Velker weapons fired again, this time in massive numbers. Energy storms crossed the void. Missiles, beams, and gravity weapons struck toward the humans. The first wave never reached them. Space twisted. Distances stretched. Attacks arrived late, weak, or not at all. Some weapons struck empty darkness where human ships had been moments before. Then the humans struck. There were no bright beams. No explosions. Human ships released anchors, small, dark objects that vanished once deployed. They embedded into space itself. Between the fleets, space folded inward. Velker ships at the edges of the formation began to tear apart, not from force but from disagreement. One half of a ship tried to exist where the other half could not. Screams filled alien command channels. Shields failing. Our hull is separating. We are losing navigation. One by one, Velker ships vanished or collapsed into silent wrecks. On the Galactic Council screens, observers stared in horror. They are destroying them without aiming, one delegate said. Archivist Thane replied quietly. They are removing the battlefield. Commander Carvel shouted orders, trying to restore control. Break formation. Scatter. But scattering made it worse. Human weapons punished movement. Every sudden jump triggered new spatial failures. Velker pilots realized too late that stillness was safer than escape. This is madness, an alien officer cried. No, Carvel said grimly. This is human. On the human bridge, reports flowed rapidly. Enemy losses at 20%. Anchors stable. No friendly casualties yet. A young officer whispered, they are running. Hale watched the Velker fleet break apart. Not yet, he said. They are learning. Suddenly, A human destroyer on the far flank flashed red. "Sir," an officer shouted. "Ship Valiant Dawn hit by concentrated fire. Hull breach." Hale's jaw tightened. "Status?" "Captain refuses retreat," the officer replied. "They are holding position." On Valiant Dawn, Captain Mara Reyes stood amid flickering lights. Smoke filled the bridge. Crew members worked silently, blood on their uniforms. "Keep the anchors online," she ordered. "Do not fall back." "Captain, we won't survive another hit," her first officer warned. Reyes nodded. "I know." She opened a fleet-wide channel. "This is Captain Reyes," she said calmly. "If we move, the line breaks. I will hold." Hale heard her voice and closed his eyes briefly. "Understood," he said. "Humanity hears you." The Velker fleet focused fire on Valiant Dawn. Space around the ship twisted violently. Reyes smiled faintly. "For Earth," she whispered. The ship vanished. Not destroyed. Gone. The anchors it held remained active. The Velker advance collapsed. A massive section of their fleet was caught in a cascading spatial failure. Ships disappeared, twisted, or were thrown light years away. Silence returned. Enemy losses reached 30%. Commander Carvel stared at the empty space where his forces had been. "Cease fire," he said hoarsely. On the Galactic Council no one spoke. Humans had fired their first true strike. And the galaxy finally understood. Humans did not win by overpowering enemies. They won by changing the rules of war itself. Victory did not feel like victory. After the first true strike, the battlefield near Ashen Light fell into an uneasy quiet. Broken sensor echoes drifted where Velker ships once existed. Dark scars marked places where space itself had been torn and stitched back together. The human fleet held position. No cheers. No celebration. Every human on every ship understood the cost had only begun to show. On the command ship, Admiral Hale studied the damage reports. "Confirmed losses?" he asked quietly. An officer swallowed. 3 ships missing. 2 heavily damaged. Casualty lists, still updating. Hale closed his eyes for a moment. 3 ships. Hundreds of lives. He opened his eyes again. "And the enemy?" "Velker losses estimated at 35%, the officer replied. "More drifting or lost beyond recovery." The room was silent. A younger officer broke it. "Sir, did we win?" Hale looked at her. "We survived," he said. "Winning comes later." Far from the command ship, rescue crews moved through wrecked corridors. Injured sailors were pulled from damaged vessels. Medics worked without rest. The smell of burned metal and blood filled the air. On one battered frigate, a young engineer stared at a cracked screen showing names of the missing. She found her brother's name. She said nothing. On the Velker flagship, Commander Carvel watched the same kind of list. But his was longer. Much longer. "This was supposed to be simple," he said bitterly. "Erase a dying species. Send a message." A senior officer stepped forward. "Commander," they said, "our fleet cannot continue. Morale is collapsing. Crews are afraid of moving." Carvel laughed once without humor. "Fear," he said. "That is the human weapon." Back among the human fleet, Admiral Hale received a private transmission. The signal was weak, broken. "Admiral, this is Captain Rin Tao, of the cruiser Iron Promise." Hale straightened. "We read you, Captain." The image of Captain Tao flickered into view. He was injured, one arm hanging uselessly. Behind him the bridge was dark, barely powered. "We took heavy damage," Tao said. "Engines are failing. We cannot retreat without collapsing the anchor line." Hale understood immediately. If Iron Promise moved, the spatial field protecting the fleet's left side would fail. The Velker could push through. "Options?" Hale asked quietly. Tao gave a tired smile. "None that end with us coming home." Silence stretched between them. "Captain," Hale said slowly, "you are not ordered to." Tao raised his hand. "Sir," he said gently, "we all knew the cost when we woke the old weapons." He turned slightly, looking at his crew. "They are ready." Hale felt the weight of every command he had ever given. "Your names will be remembered," he said. "That's enough," Tao replied. The transmission ended. Iron Promise held position as Velker scouts tested the weakened flank. The human cruiser absorbed hit after hit. Its hull tore open. Fire spread. Inside, crew members worked calmly. A medic held a wounded pilot's hand. "You scared?" she asked softly. The pilot shook his head. "No," he said. "Just wish my daughter could see the stars one more time." As the ship reached critical failure, Captain Tao activated the final protocol. The Iron Promise collapsed inward, carrying its anchor with it. The resulting spatial implosion erased a wide corridor of space. Velker ships caught in the zone vanished instantly. The enemy advance stopped. Across the fleet, human crews felt the loss like a physical blow. On the command ship, Admiral Hale turned away from the main screen. "Log Iron Promise as fallen in defense of the line," he said. The officer's voice broke. "Yes, sir." The Galactic Council received updated data moments later. A trembling delegate spoke. "The humans are sacrificing entire ships, willingly." Archivist Thane nodded. "They always have," Thane said. "That is why they are still here." On the Velker flagship, Commander Carvel stared at the new void scar left by Iron Promise. "They are not defending territory," he realized aloud. "They are defending existence." The Velker fleet pulled back farther. Weapons powered down. Formation loosened, cautious now, respectful. A new human signal broadcast across all frequencies. Admiral Hale's voice was calm but heavy. "We do not seek your extinction," he said. "But we will not allow ours." The message carried no threat, only truth. Near the colony, evacuation ships completed their jumps. Human civilians were safe, for now. Children slept without hearing alarms for the first time in days. In one transport, a little girl asked her mother, "Did the soldiers win?" Her mother held her close. "They kept us alive," she said. Back at Ashen Light, the battlefield drifted in silence once more. Humanity had paid the price of survival in blood and sacrifice. But the galaxy was finally learning something important. Humans did not fight because they loved war. They fought because they refused to disappear. Fear changed the galaxy. Not the loud, panicked kind. The quiet kind. The kind that rewrites plans and erases pride. After the battle at Ashen Light, the Velker Alliance did something no one expected. They stopped. No advance. No counterattack. No new fleets arriving. Their ships remained at extreme distance, weapons powered down, shields active, crews tense. For the first time in their long history, the Velker did not know what to do. Commander Carvel stood alone on his bridge, staring at the human fleet. The old ships still floated in calm formation, damaged but unbroken. "They could erase us," he said softly. A senior officer nodded. "Yes, Commander. And they are not." That scared Carvel more than any weapon. On the Galactic Council, fear took another form. Emergency sessions became permanent. Old alliances cracked. Some species demanded sanctions against humanity. Others begged for protection treaties. A scaled delegate slammed a claw on the council floor. "We must stop them now before they grow stronger." Archivist Thane turned slowly. "Stop them how?" Thane asked. "By threatening extinction again?" The delegate had no answer. Across the chamber, a quiet voice spoke. "What if humans are not our enemy?" Silence followed. Back in human space, Admiral Hale received a message from Earth Command. It was short, carefully written. Authority transferred. "You speak for humanity." Hale closed his eyes. He had not wanted this. But someone had to carry the weight. A human officer approached. "Sir," she said, "Velker channels are requesting dialogue." Murmurs spread across the bridge. "Dialogue?" someone whispered. "After everything?" Hale considered for a long moment. "Open a channel," he said. The image of Commander Carvel appeared. His posture was stiff. His voice controlled. "Admiral Hale," Carvel said, "the Velker Alliance requests a ceasefire. No threats. No demands. Just a request." Hale studied the alien commander. "You came to erase us," Hale said calmly. "Yes," Carvel replied. "And we failed. Why should we trust you?" Carvel hesitated, then spoke honestly. "Because we are afraid," he said. "And fear makes us cautious." That answer surprised the human officers. Hale nodded once. "A ceasefire is acceptable," he said. "On one condition." Carvel leaned forward. "You will carry a message," Hale said. "To the galaxy." "What message?" Carvel asked. Hale's eyes hardened. "That humanity does not want war. But we will survive it." The channel closed. Across Velker space, orders spread. Weapons powered down fully. Damaged ships withdrew. Medical vessels moved in. The war was over. But the fear had only begun. On the Galactic Council, the announcement struck like a shockwave. "The Velker Alliance has accepted a ceasefire," an aide announced. Voices erupted. "They surrendered? To humans?" Archivist Thane raised a limb. "This is not surrender," Thane said. This is adaptation. Delegates fell silent. Humans have changed the balance, Thane continued. Not by conquering, but by proving they cannot be erased. Across the galaxy, military planners rewrote doctrines. Old strategies were thrown away. New words entered tactical language. Human uncertainty. Spatial denial. Extinction response threshold. Humanity became a factor no one could ignore. Among human crews, reactions were mixed. Some felt pride. Others felt grief. On the medical deck of a carrier, survivors of Iron Promise gathered quietly. No speeches were made. Names were read aloud. A bell rang once for each lost soul. Admiral Hale watched from a distance. An officer approached. Sir, she said, the galaxy fears us now. Hale nodded. They should, he said softly. But not for the reason they think. He looked at the stars. They fear our weapons, he continued. They do not yet understand our restraint. In a distant system, an alien historian recorded a message. Let it be known, the historian said, that humanity crossed a line today. Not into darkness, but into inevitability. Back near Ashen Light, the ancient human ships slowly powered down. Void anchors retracted. Space relaxed, healing itself. But deep within the ships, systems remained awake. Watching. Learning. Admiral Hale felt it. They're still active, a science officer said quietly. The weapons, they're waiting. Hale exhaled slowly. So are we, he replied. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity. The question now was simple. Would humanity become what the galaxy feared? Or something better? The galaxy did not return to normal. It adjusted. Trade routes shifted away from human space, then slowly curved back. Borders were redrawn with careful distance. Fleets trained for threats that might never come. Every major power added one new rule to their survival plans. Do not push humanity to the edge. Near the dying star Ashen Light, the human fleet remained for several weeks. Repairs were made. Wounded ships were patched together. Names of the lost were carved into digital memory walls aboard every vessel. No one rushed home. They all understood this place had become a symbol. On the command ship, Admiral Jonah Hale stood alone before a wide viewport. The dead star glowed faintly, red and tired, like an old warrior that refused to fade. An officer entered quietly. Sir, she said, Galactic Council transmission incoming. Priority level 1. Hale turned. Put it through. The council chamber appeared. Dozens of alien faces watched him. Some with fear. Some with respect. Some with something new, uncertainty. Archivist Thane spoke first. Admiral Hale, Thane said, the council acknowledges humanity's survival and its capability. Hale waited. We request formal dialogue, Thane continued. Not as overseers. Not as judges. But as equals. A long silence followed. Human officers held their breath. Hale finally nodded. Dialogue is acceptable, he said. But understand this. The council leaned closer. Humanity will never again accept a place at the bottom, Hale said calmly. We will not rule you. But we will not kneel. No one argued. Across the galaxy, the message spread. Humans were no longer a forgotten species. They were a constant. In human space, something else was happening. Hidden shipyards long thought abandoned came alive. Ancient doors opened. New fleets began construction, not with fear but with care. Engineers studied the void architecture again, this time with limits, locks, and human judgment layered into every system. The lesson of Ashen Light was clear. Power without control was extinction. Control without compassion was tyranny. Humans chose neither. On Earth, schools added a new chapter to history. The last goodbye and the first strike. Children learned about Iron Promise. About Valiant Dawn. About the crews who held the line so others could live. A teacher ended the lesson with simple words. They were afraid, she said. But they chose courage anyway. Far from Earth, Commander Carvel stood before a Velker memorial wall. Names of the lost glowed softly. He had survived the war, but something inside him had changed. Humans haunted his thoughts. Not their weapons. Their restraint. They could have erased us, he said quietly to a fellow officer. Yes, the officer replied. But they did not. Carvel bowed his head. We must never forget that mercy. Back at Ashen Light, Admiral Hale prepared to leave. The fleet was ready to move. The ancient ships, once hidden, now stood openly among newer vessels. An officer approached one last time. Sir, she asked, what do we tell the galaxy now? Hale considered the question. He opened a wide broadcast channel. The message carried across known space. "This is humanity," Hale said. "We were hunted. We were cornered. We survived." Stars passed silently behind him. "We do not seek your fear," he continued. "We seek a future where no species must say a last goodbye." The message ended. Across the galaxy, reactions varied. Some felt relief. Some felt shame. Some felt hope. The ancient human ships jumped away one by one, disappearing into light. Ashen Light was left alone again, quiet and empty. But it was no longer a grave. It was a warning. And a promise. Long after the battle, archivist Thane updated the final record. Status of humanity. Not extinct. Not submissive. Not hostile. Classification. Too resilient to erase. Too dangerous to ignore. Too human to become monsters. The galaxy moved forward carefully. And humanity did too. Not as conquerors. Not as victims. But as survivors who had learned the true cost of saying goodbye. And the responsibility of choosing what comes next. Milky Way final line.